I'm going to put a couple on the list to just get started. Let's actually start with these two. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Astrobot were almost tied for me for Game of the Year. Like, it was originally Rebirth, and then I played Astrobot, not even planning on streaming it or anything, and it ended up pretty much dethroning Rebirth as my Game of the Year. So I think it's going to be like this. I'd say Astrobot is barely my number one above FF7 Rebirth, but I would consider them both like personal games of the year. Rebirth had like everything, dude. Rebirth had great characters. I mean, we knew they were going to be great characters because, you know, we've played Final Fantasy VII. Great characters, great story, mini games, one of the best combat systems out there, just adapting from the remake combat system. And the world was very fun to explore, which I was very, very pumped about. This is one of the best games I ever played. And it's funny because I am putting it below Astrobot because this game was like, dude, Astrobot was the game that this industry needed. Like, I'm so glad it won Game of the Year because it very much deserved Game of the Year, but like, it wasn't just the game that the industry needed, but it was also the game that I needed. Like, it scratched that platforming itch for me. I would argue it's one of the best platformers out there. It's no Mario Brothers, right? It's nothing like that. But I would say, maybe this is a hot take, I would say it's better. Like, I would say that it's better than most Mario games that I think I've ever played personally. Full of charm, full of love. This is a team of 65 developers, 65 devs, 65 people made this game, right? And they cranked out, in my opinion, what was a masterpiece. You know, not even just with all like it's not only like a love letter to PlayStation, but I do believe it's a love letter to just video games in general. Like, the game is just that good. I would say Astrobot is 100% my number one, Rebirth being my number two. My number three this year, don't rag on me for this, but it's true, and it's not technically a game. Yeah. It's absolutely not a standalone game or anything, you know. I'm not even saying that, but Shadow of the Erdtree, arguably one of the best DLCs I've ever played. It's like 35 to 40 hours worth of content, all like different and unique bosses. They made a boss fight that, in my opinion, is like just as hard as Malenia, maybe even harder. That's debatable. I still think maybe Malenia is maybe the hardest boss in Elden Ring. But the final boss in the DLC, I didn't think they could make a boss just as difficult and take as much time as it took for me to beat Malenia, but they did. Actually, there was a couple bosses that I struggled with. Rellana early on was one that I absolutely struggled with. That one was rough. I'm putting it on here because it's true. Like, it would be my number 3 experience this year. It's not its own standalone game, but I did stream it. I do have a playthrough of it, and it's in my top 3 things that I played this year. Number 4, and this is me probably just being biased, but this game did get a remake this year, and the remake was fantastic. Absolutely stunning. Thousand Year Door is one of my favorite games of all time. So naturally, it's going in my top 5 of the games that I played this year. It's just like little things that they did. Like, there was a lot of quality of life things that they did, whether it was things like adding a warp pipe so you can fast travel from, you know, Twilight Town to Creeple Steeple. Like, that was huge for me, because if you played the original, there's a lot of backtracking in that chapter, and they fixed that. There's a lot of things that they just really improved upon in terms of like traversal, in terms of just little like quality of life features, like regarding the menu and the party, and like this was a great remake, and they added a couple of boss fights, a couple of secret bosses, which I won't spoil, but it was absolutely fantastic. Top 10 game of all time, but you know, I don't know if I could put it above like, you know, these three experiences that I've had this year. My number five game. This is probably going to be my hottest take. It's not what you're going to think it is. It's not a game that I streamed this year. My number 5 is a little game called Dragon's Dogma 2. Yes, Dragon's Dogma 2 is my number 5. It's in my top 5 this year. And it's funny because a lot of people who played this game, from what I saw, like a lot of people seemed like they were pretty disappointed with it. I've never played Dragon's Dogma before. Dragon's Dogma 2 was my first ever Dragon's Dogma experience. And I loved it. And I'll tell you why I loved it. I'll tell you why it's in my top 5. Because it reminded me a lot, not a direct parallel or direct comparison, but a lot of this game reminded me a lot of Skyrim, right? And Skyrim is like a top 20 game of all time for me, easily. Top 20, maybe top 30 now, because there were some bangers that came out this year, but it's easily a top 20 game for me. And there's a lot about this game that reminded me of Skyrim, whether it was just like exploring the world, whether it was like the jankiness of some of the gameplay. Some of the gameplay is a little janky and it's a little clunky, but I personally think that that's part of the charm. It's part of the charm in Skyrim, and it was kind of part of the charm in this game. Not as charming as Skyrim jank is, but it was fun. Like, and even like, I know a lot of people don't enjoy the whole like, oh, you can only carry X amount of weight on your person. And like the more things that you're carrying on you, the heavier you are, then you move slower and things like that. I personally don't mind mechanics like that. And again, that's another thing that reminded me of, Skyrim. The combat's very fun. Like, I think I played as every single vocation in this game except the mage. And they're all really unique. The magic system is very different than what I am used to, but it was a nice change of pace because like magic in this game, it takes stamina. There's no like magic meter or magic bar or anything like that. It actually costs stamina, and a lot of your abilities, they cost stamina to use. Magic Archer was really fun. The warrior class was really fun. One of the biggest complaints that I've seen about this game was the lack of fast travel. It's funny because there is fast travel, but it's different. Like it's limited. It's limited fast travel because you can only fast travel with these things called fairy stones. You can only fast travel to certain locations. So you can't just fast travel whenever you want to whatever location you want, like most open world games. It's very limited. And this is, again, hot take, right? I would argue that with this game, it works, right? That's actually not a bad thing in this game because the limited fast travel incentivizes you to explore the world. And exploring the world is the best part of this game because you are rewarded very generously for just running around, finding caves, and just finding like, little secret areas. This game rewards you very well for exploration, and I think that's why I don't know how the first Dragon's Dogma is, but I'd like to think that's why fast travel is as limited as it is. The story, couldn't even tell you what really happened outside of like the very beginning and the very end. When you actually just play it, you get fairy stones for just exploring and you can buy them. So it's like the people complaining about the fast travel thing, I do get it, but at the same time, it does incentivize you to actually engage in what I think is the best part of the game. Let's actually do these two, because these two, I think, they are similar, but also different, but I feel like, at least for me, I feel like it is fair to compare them. These are two phenomenal games, dude. Both of these games were awesome experiences. When I started playing them versus like how I feel about them now, my opinions have changed on them. They're not bad things. It's just like, I've been kind of juggling in my head, like, which game do I actually think is better? I'll say this. Black Myth Wukong, first playthrough, I think I enjoyed more than the first playthrough of Stellar Blade. However, on replay, I think I enjoyed Stellar Blade more than Black Myth Wukong. Can't even put one down over the other. Like, they're just both, I feel like they're both like neck and neck for me. Like, for Black Myth Wukong, it was the bosses being rewarded for the bosses that you go out of your way to fight, but also just for like secrets that you find. And like, the level design is nothing crazy at all, especially at the very beginning of the game. It's really just like it feels like just a hallway. But this game rewards you in a way for exploration, in the sense of like not just like finding things, but you find bosses. Like, there's a lot of secret hidden bosses in Black Myth Wukong. That was honestly one of the most rewarding parts of the game for me, because like some of these hidden bosses could have or should have been like main story bosses, and they just hid them away, right? And it's actually, I love when games do that. I love whenever like you find just like or even like a secret hidden area. There's multiple like hidden areas and locations in Black Myth Wukong. It's just entire areas that are just completely missable or optional. The combat feels good. It feels good for both games personally, but you can really feel like the impact of like when you're landing your attacks when playing Black Myth Wukong. I also think Black Myth Wukong, just the base final boss, has one of the best final bosses of all time. It was one of the most fun final boss fights for me personally. I don't really know the story of Journey to the West, and to be honest, like, the story was pretty tough to follow for me personally. Like, you can still follow it, but it's, you know, there wasn't a lot of things that really hit me or resonated with me. So the story for me was kind of like a lower aspect of the game, but the game was super fun to play. Like, I don't regret playing it at all. It was mad fun to play. Now, Stellar Blade. Pretty, like, decent story. I did enjoy the story. It's nothing crazy, you know? It's no FF7 or anything like that. But it was a good story. There's a couple of really cool twists, especially at the end of the game. I was actually super worried originally playing this game, because when I saw the trailers, it was one of those games where I'm like, okay, the combat looks super flashy, but does it feel good? Like, I had a feeling it wasn't gonna feel great. Then I got my hands on it and can confirm that the combat feels incredible. It feels incredible. It feels just as good as Wukong, but like differently, because, you know, you have a lot more combo variety in Stellar Blade than in Black Myth Wukong. And, you know, in Wukong, you don't have like a parry, like a universal parry. Like, there is a parry in the game, but it's locked to one of your spells, is basically like your parry. And you do have technically a parry with like one of your combos as well. But in Stellar Blade, it's like L1 the block and time L1 the parry. You know, it's like a typical parry. And the parry feels good, and you're rewarded for skill in Stellar Blade. And not only does the combat feel good, and not only is it fun, but there's way more variety in terms of like combos and things you can do in Stellar Blade in comparison to Black Myth. There's a whole install mode that you get like halfway through the game, which is awesome. And there's platforming. There's actually like puzzles to solve, and there's a couple of like open areas. It's fun, and you can also play it as like a third-person shooter, because that's also part of the game. At the end of the day, between these two, I actually think that Stellar Blade is the better game overall. But it's very close between these two. Like, it's like this. They both do great things. I just think Stellar Blade did more things that appealed to me personally than Wukong did. And I came to this conclusion on replaying both games. So that's kind of where I stand on that. But again, both great games. Do I go down the Zelda rabbit hole yet? Is Skyward Sword gonna be number 8 this year? Skyward Sword, I think, is my number 8 game, and specifically Skyward Sword HD, because this is the version that I played. And by the way, this list that I'm making, there's not one game on this list that I would say is bad. Like, I enjoyed every game that I'm about to talk about on this list. Probably the lowest rated game in my opinion, like, that I will get to, for me, that I played this year, was probably a 6 out of 10. But a 6 out of 10 is decent. Like, I think that's still good. Even after playing Tears of the Kingdom, I would still say Skyward Sword is my favorite because Skyward Sword's story was a big thing of what did it for me, because a lot of these Zelda games that we played, the stories were fine, you know, they were good, but like something about Skyward Sword's story and like knowing like the origins of the Master Sword and seeing like Link and Zelda's interactions and, you know, like discovering characters like Groose and things like that who really made the game fun. Like, I think that was a highlight. I think that's why it's so high. But also, like, this game is just beautiful. Like, it's so colorful and the areas are so, like, diverse. And I actually enjoyed, like, I didn't play with the motion controls. I still used a Pro Controller. But on the Switch version, on the HD version, you, instead of like using motion controls, it's the analog stick that you use to swing your sword. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really fun, especially because there was certain puzzles that you had to solve and certain enemies that you had to fight where you had to actually swing your sword or do something with your sword a very specific way. I'd say Skyward Sword is probably my favorite. It's I would say that game and Majora's Mask were the two Zelda games where I really felt like I wanted to go out of my way to do as many side quests as I could. This game was also one of those where it's like I really also just wanted to engage with the world of Skyward Sword, maybe more so than some of the other Zelda games that I played. And I think that's another reason why I enjoyed it so much. Like, it has that like charm to it. It was all these Zelda games are charming in their own way, but I would say this one was, the world itself was charming. We technically finished Majora's Mask this year, so I'm putting it on here as well. Probably go Tears of the Kingdom, and then I'd say probably Wind Waker is kind of towards the bottom. Again, enjoyed Wind Waker. It's just towards the bottom of my list for me. Twilight Princess was my favorite game until Skyward Sword came along. And honestly, like, it's kind of a tie. Like, these two are almost tied. Because Twilight Princess, I really enjoyed, like, the temples and, like, the cinematics of like certain scenes, and especially like the final boss at the end. Some people I've seen kind of like have mixed opinions on this. I actually like playing as Wolf Link. I thought playing as Wolf Link was really cool. It was a neat way to break up the gameplay. I kind of wish you could do more with Wolf Link. Like, I kind of wish he had some abilities that he could have learned as you progress the game. And you obviously don't play as him all the time, but like you can switch. There comes a point where you can switch between Link and Wolf Link, and I kind of wish there was just more you could do gameplay-wise with Wolf Link. And Twilight Princess gave us one of the best Zelda characters ever, which is Midna. Majora's Mask, easily top 3 Zelda games, and it's funny because this was the game, whenever I first started playing it, I was like, dude, like I don't know if I'm feeling this game. Like, I'm gonna push through it, but like I don't know if I'm feeling it. And then it was like the 3rd stream, I think, where like it just started to click. I got like a mask and I was like, wait a minute, I think this goes with this person. And then I went there and I was right, and then I was rewarded for it. And I was like, whoa. So then I started like figuring out the game, and then it became one of the best and most unique Zelda experiences I've ever had, because you are working against the clock, but you can rewind time. And I love that, like, NPCs, depending on the time of the day or what day it is, you know, they show up at different places at different times, and you kind of use that knowledge of, like, you know, rewinding time to kind of figure out like when you can interact with them and then do their quests and things like that. And it was just one of the most unique experiences I've ever had. Had some of the best side quests ever. I really, really, really loved this game in the end. And you get rewarded for getting all the masks, and the reward is pretty great. Tears of the Kingdom had one of the best endings, in my opinion, of any Zelda game we've played. Some people have been like, oh, it's just like Breath of the Wild, but it's like just, you know, they just added a few more things. No. They added, it's not just like Breath of the Wild DLC. They added a sky map and a depths map, which I think at least the depths was one of the best parts of the game for me. No pun intended, but I guess kind of intended. It gives you an extra layer to explore, but literally it does. Being able to fuse weapons together was another highlight for me. That was pretty sweet because we made some pretty broken stuff. Exploration, I would say the same as Breath of the Wild. It was a 10 out of 10. Exploration was a 10 out of 10. Actually, I would say it's an 11 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed this more than Breath of the Wild because of just some of the traversal things that they've done. I enjoyed the shrines more in this game in comparison to Breath of the Wild. It's a good time. Maybe I will revisit it or continue where I left off, but I did everything I wanted to do. Great experience. Top 5 Zelda games easily. And Wind Waker. So Wind Waker, overall on my Zelda timeline or overall on my Zelda chart, Wind Waker is pretty low. It's not because I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy the game, right? It's definitely one of the most charming Zelda games I've played. It has, I think, one of the best versions of Ganon Ganondorf in my opinion. But for me, I didn't really feel, and I don't know what it was, which is interesting because it was open world before Zelda open world was a thing. You know what I mean? You're out on the sea and you just sail wherever you want, and that's a really fun part of the game. For some reason, for me, I didn't feel incentivized or feel like I had any desire to sail out of my way to just go find random things like I did in some of these other games. I kind of just found stuff as I went. And you know what? I actually did enjoy, and I don't know if this is a hot take either, right? Or I don't know how people feel about this, but I personally enjoyed the Triforce Hunt because it made me explore the map a little bit more. I just didn't feel like I wanted to go more out of my way to explore more other than what the game was requiring me to do. And I don't know why I felt that way, but that's just kind of how I felt about it. But it was fun, and I think the combat is great. I would say this game has fantastic combat. Twilight Princess has fantastic combat. But Wind Waker's great. It was fun. The temples were fine. The temples were good. It was just, I don't know. I just think it's personally a little bit lower on my list. So that's all the Zelda games that we played this year. Okay, here we go. This is one that I actually bought recently. Never played a Helldivers game in my life, but I literally bought this 3-4 weeks ago because my buddy Joe wanted to play with somebody and I said I would buy it. Dude, this game is fun. This game is fun. There's nothing for Super Earth, for democracy. You know what? I would actually put this maybe a little bit higher. Sorry, Wind Waker. I think I'd put it above Wind Waker. I'm sorry. I like Wind Waker, but in terms of enjoyment, dude, this game is this was the perfect co-op game. Not the perfect co-op game, but it's a pretty good co-op game. You can squad up with 4 people. You dive onto planets and you fight bugs and automatons, and you do it for democracy. It's a great time, dude. There's nothing more fun than just calling in airstrikes and these massive bombardments of explosions on a very highly populated enemy occupied area. Super fun time. And it's funny because this is a game that I typically would probably not play, but dude, I love it. I actually want to play it right now. Listen, this game ain't just a card game. It's not just poker, dude. This game is addicting, dude. It's addicting. Sorry, Sid. I would. I'd put it above Wind Waker. I really would. Dude, it's actually, I did not know, dude, the first time I heard about this game was whenever it was nominated for Game of the Year and all these awards. Dude, I thought it was an ice cream. I thought it was a gelato or something. No, it's a poker roguelike. You heard me. You pick a deck that you start with, and each deck has its own abilities. And it's poker. You try to get full houses, flushes, 3 of a kinds. But there's 150 different types of jokers in the game, and each joker does something different. So, for example, there's a joker that gives you a multiplier for every face card that you play. And then you can stack that with a joker that gives you a multiplier for every club that you play. So you can, the goal is to like, there's multiple like rounds and like you have to beat like 8 waves of rounds to actually win, but you want to try to score as many points as possible, and you only have a certain number of hands and a certain number of discards. And then you can also like, you know, make like certain cards, give certain cards like certain abilities, and you could buy like booster packs and things like that to also enhance your cards and even add like special cards to your deck and like do crazy things. It's fun, dude. It's addicting, and it's only like it's only like $5 or something on Switch. It's like $5 or $10 on Switch, dude. And you can get it on your phone as well. I got hooked on it whenever I played it. I don't think I would put it above, you know, Tears of the Kingdom or anything. Where did it go? It definitely deserved the awards, the indie awards that it got. It got like best indie game and I think best debut game. It got like 3 awards at the Game Awards. Honestly deserved. Should we count Tekken 8? We absolutely will count Tekken 8. Do I put it above Wind Waker just for the heck of it? I don't know if I would do that, but I literally played this game, last week? Clive made me buy Tekken, and let me tell you, dude, I had a blast just figuring out how to play the game, hitting random buttons, beating people's butts online. It was fun, dude. And it's another one of those games where, like, dude, it's addicting. Like, I feel addicted to it. Like, I get a high whenever I play Tekken 8. Will I play any other characters in Tekken 8? Probably not. Unless Tifa comes out, right? I'll stick with Clive, but Clive is very, 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 very fun, dude. I played this game this year. OG FF1, dude. Pixel remaster version. I tried playing FF1 whenever I was a kid, because after I played Kingdom Hearts, I was like, oh, like Final Fantasy? Okay, Final Fantasy characters. Let's start playing Final Fantasy 1. And then I played it. I was like, wait, Cloud's not in this game. I also didn't get anywhere as a kid. Like, I don't even think I made it to the shrine because I had no idea what I was doing. But I actually sat down. I was like, you know what? I'm going to play the Pixel remaster of Final Fantasy. And I'm going to play through it. And it took a minute for me to get the hang of. But once it clicked, dude. And it's not a long game. It's like 15 hours. You can play the game in like 15 hours, dude. If you guys have never played the original Final Fantasy, you can get it on Switch. You can get it on Switch right now, and it's definitely worth it. And it's not super long. I actually would put it above Tekken 8. Yeah, I put it above Tekken 8, personally. Would I put it above Wind Waker, though? I would. I would. And here's why I would. Because this game makes you talk to everybody. Like, well, it doesn't make you, but like every single NPC, and I love this about like old JRPGs and old Final Fantasy, because it can be frustrating when you don't know where to go. Every NPC gives you a hint about something, and you gotta kind of figure out what to do with that information. I actually love that about this game. On the topic of RPGs, I played Super Mario RPG for the first time. I got it for Christmas last year, played it this year. It was good. I didn't like love it. Like, it was a good like 7 out of 10, but I wouldn't give it any more than a 7 out of 10. But it was fun, it was charming, it was cute. And it was surprisingly short. I was actually surprised at how short it was. It's another like 15-hour game. Would I put it above Tekken 8? I'll leave it right there. I'll leave it right there because it wasn't just like turn-based combat. Like, there's also segments, there's like mini game segments, and there are segments where you have to like platform like a typical Mario game. It's a good, solid, I think, 7 out of 10 for me. But I don't think I would rate it any higher than that. I'm just really glad that I played it, you know, and I'm glad that I played it in my own time. This game is fun. I have not played a ton of it. I've only played like a couple of the maps, but this is a solid Mario Party. I'm actually surprised more people aren't talking about it. I actually think I'd put it above Super Mario RPG personally. I think all of like the unique game modes that they added with like the 20-player thing and like the 8-person, I think, like co-op thing or whatever the heck it is, which I haven't even tried yet. But I think it's really cool. And there's a whole section for like if you just wanted to play motion control minigames. Like, that's so cool, man. I'd say probably at the bottom of my list is gonna have to be Reynatus, but that doesn't mean I didn't dislike this game, right? Like, I did like it. I would say overall, though, I'd rank it like a 6 out of 10 overall. I did enjoy it. The combat was fun. The characters were good for the most part. Outside of, like, I didn't really care for Martin too much, and he's one of the main characters. He was the only one that I was not super crazy about, but all the other characters I think are great. And the Tooie crossover was cute. It was fun. I wish there was more to it, but like, I'm happy with what we got. Really unique setting, really unique plot. It's just a little bit lower for me on my list just because of, you know, technical things and just like, you know, the story was good, but it wasn't like, didn't blow my mind. It was good. It was, again, 6 out of 10. I give it a 6 out of 10. And they are adding more chapters to the game. Like they keep updating it, which is actually really cool. Would I recommend it at full price? No. Wait till the game goes on sale for like maybe 20 bucks, I would say. And then I would play it, right? But don't buy it at full price. I think this is all the games that I played for the first time this year. These are just games these were just first playthroughs, by the way. Just first playthroughs. I played a lot of games, right? And some of these games I didn't stream, but it's just like whatever I played this year. This is my list in order. Astrobot being number 1, Reynatus being last. This right here is absolutely my hottest take, but it's just how I feel, dude. This is officially my list. This is officially my list. Definitely a gamer kind of year. Definitely a gaming kind of year.